whether you believe he came here for Hollywood first and basketball second, the fact of the matter is this. He is lighting it up in Hollywood. I know you said that in jest. I mean, you serious, but you made a joke out of it.
I know, right.
But he's doing his thing. I mean, he's got the Space Jam movie's going to be coming up.
If I'm a Laker fan paying $500 for tickets, I'm not interested in that.
I'm interested because his documentary, especially as an African-American, his documentary that he's running now on Showtime, Shut Up and Dribble. I watched part 1 that came out, I guess, a week ago. Excellent. Excellent. And now
I've seen bits and pieces.
Excellent. Part 2 is coming out in this Saturday, and it's going to focus on, because the whole point of Shut Up and Dribble is a play off Laura Ingraham, Fox News commentator, who told LeBron after he criticized President Trump, shut up and dribble, LeBron.
Right.
And so he used that to create this documentary. He's the executive producer about basketball players, not athletes, at least from what I've seen so far. Basketball players, NBA players, African-American NBA players, and their quest to, whether they are outspoken or not, but how they have dealt with over the years and how they'll deal with it now and maybe going forward in terms of social issues, speaking out, making an impact, and things like that. So part 2, we haven't seen it yet. Like I said, it's coming out this weekend. Part 2 will focus on, or at least to some degree, Michael Jordan. And the fact that we all know Michael Jordan often was criticized. As great as he was on the basketball court, he was often criticized.
I wrote many columns. I wrote many columns.
And many others.
Yes.
For his lack of, or his unwillingness to speak out on social issues, particularly those facing African Americans.
He was more about selling, I always used to say, selling soda pop and T-shirts and sneakers. That's what he was interested in. He didn't want to ruffle anybody's feathers who potentially could buy something from him. That's the life that he wanted to live, and I thought he should be criticized for that because he had a platform that most would die for.
No question.
And I'm not asking him to speak out against everything. That's not his place. He's a basketball player, but there were certain issues that he could have spoken about. I always said that with Tiger Woods. I remember the one that was out there when down in Augusta they didn't allow women.
Right.
And if Tiger would have said, "Hey, I'm not going to play there unless you guys allow all people, women, people of color to be members here. This is not 1925."
Right.
Right? He could have easily had an impact.
Right.
And don't tell me that if Tiger Woods said he would never play Augusta until they allow women, and how quickly
changed before the words were out of his mouth.
Yes, this is what I'm
before the sentence was over.
That's making change. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't want him to get on a soapbox and talk about the admissions at Michigan or other things that he's not really involved in, or you know what I mean, that don't touch him. I don't expect him to stand up against everything and speak out against every situation. But there are some where it would be nice not to act like it's not happening. That's all. And the same thing with Michael Jordan. As great of a player he is, and I can't look past him as a player, but he can be criticized for other stuff that he did not do.
As a player, yeah. And the thing is, and my feeling is, look, African Americans are 12, 13% of the American population. You don't have to be black. You don't have to be progressive, liberal, whatever, to know that blacks have been oppressed in this country, and it didn't end with when slavery ended. It went on through the 60s, and then you still see oppression today and discrimination today. And because we're only such a small part of the population, you only have so many means by which to get your freedom, your equality, and your justice. Okay? And one of the ways, because African Americans are so dominant in sports and entertainment, music, television, comedy, whatever, those are two ways that African Americans can use to get freedom, justice, and equality. I would argue that black athletes, did just as much or close to as much for integration as the civil rights movement did.
Oh, no. There's no doubt about it.
Because the mainstream America is so much into sports.
No.
And when black athletes began to dominate sports and become beloved and idolized by white fans.
And starting with Jackie Robinson.
Right.
I mean, that changed the whole country. I mean, people really...
no question. It was like, how
really...
can you leave mainstream society segregated when sports now are integrated?
Right.
And we see the benefits of the integration.
And then all of a sudden, like even it turned in college football where schools were losing to teams with black
Bear
players.
Bryant.
All of a sudden, Bear Bryant was like, wait a minute.
Let me go get
Maybe I should get a couple black guys on my team. I'm trying to win.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, it all changed. So, yes.
That's why we want, because a lot of white Americans say, well, I didn't nobody ask Larry Bird to be outspoken.
He didn't have to do that.
Or, you know,
you're the majority.
Chris Sale or whoever you want to say.
You're the majority. You
right.
Know,
well, and let's just face it, the society was set up for success. There was no oppression. There was no discrimination against whites systemically and all that.
Right.
You know, and so we have two completely different histories when it comes to this nation.
And then here's the other part.
And contemporary plights as well.
Here's the other part. Too often, this is where that whole sellout thing comes with the talk of black athletes.
Right.
Is that, you know, like they're comfortable, they're doing their thing, and they act like their family and everybody else still living in that other world, and you act like nothing's going on.
Right.
Like, and that's why.
Well,
even
OJ Simpson was the greatest example of that. But there have been many.
But
and there's many today too.
That's why the 1968 Olympics was so. There was turmoil going on and riots all over the country and stuff going on, and those guys on their shining moment.
John Carlos, Tommy Smith
decided that they were going to bring attention to something that was important.
Right.
When you see that, man, that's wildly important.
No question.
You know what? And it was their moment. And this is what people got to always understand. Can't always be selfish like, oh, I'm not going to do this. This is not going to ruin my moment. I always wanted to do this my whole life. Same thing. Curt Flood, we talked about him not too long ago, Chris. Gave up. He was a really good baseball player. Gave up his baseball career for free agency, not just for baseball, for all sports, free agency.
Well, let me say this.
So that's why when guys who are stars, like a Michael Jordan, don't speak up or don't say anything, people get bothered by it.
Jim Brown said, and he was obviously a great superstar in the NFL, he said, he kind of addressed that issue years ago. He said, look, when you become a superstar athlete, you get treated like a king.
Right. It's totally different.
Your blackness almost, in some ways, becomes an advantage. Like whites idolize Michael Jordan, Jim Brown, you know, all these other great African-American athletes. So he said, it's very easy for you. Now you got this huge house. You got all this money.
All these
Everybody
friends,
treats you like a superstar. The celebrities, the Hollywood stars, they love you. They want to hang out with you. Rich, wealthy white businessmen want to be your friend and all that. He said, it's very easy to forget what masses of African-American people are still going through. And that's what some of these athletes, it's not even a purposeful sellout. It's just getting caught up in their celebrity and their lifestyle.
But the only thing
and forgetting where other people came from.
Yeah.
And where they came from.
But then the sad part is down the road, you know, you always get reminded. So, you know what I mean? Like, you might live that world and then you're out of the league. People don't even know who you are. What?
Yep.
You know, I'm not talking about like the superstars. But there's a lot.
Again, I hate to keep bringing him up because we know what O.J. Simpson is, his situation now. But he said, I'm not black.
I'm O.J.
I'm O.J.